So these are James's burgers for today, and I'll talk about those in a minute. I'm having Strong Woman tomato soup, and we're going to talk about these movies. So, you can go ahead and sit down, James. Now, I was busy troubleshooting the washing machine, so I actually missed, well, really all of these movies. So, I don't know. I did catch quite a bit of this one and a fair amount of this one, because before I started monkeying too much with the washing machine, I was sitting in the room, but I was filling packages of seeds. So anyway, so James will be better off to tell you about these movies actually than...
Okay. You didn't tell me there'd be a test on this kind of thing.
No.
Okay. So which one do I want to start with? Let's see. What's this one like? Harriet. Oh yeah, this was about kind of like the Underground Railway. I'm going to be free or die. Je serai libre ou je mourrai. Anyway, I'm going to be free or die. It's roughly the same thing in French and English.
We get French on everything in Canada.
Yep, and that's good.
Which is good.
Some things we get Spanish as well. That was stuff that's designed for America and the United States. And I think some people get all up in arms about that. Hopefully not literally. But I'm going, yeah, more languages the merrier, really. But just so long as one language is not imposed on another. Like if the Spanish people who are going to be the majority in a variety of different southern states, if they impose Spanish on English-speaking people, I think that would be very offensive, and probably worse than offensive. Anyway, what was I going to say about this? Harriet. Yeah, it wasn't bad. The acting was actually pretty good. I'm not going to say what the ending is like. It's a pretty serious sort of thing. I mean, they're facing death as escaping, or at best as risking being taken back to their slave owners, and probably being subjected to corporal and other punishments. Now, so do I recommend it? If you like that sort of thing. If you don't like that sort of thing. But it's not like I'd say, hey, avoid it at all. Avoid it by all means. Now, this one comes from Guyana, or Kayanai, as it's mispronounced. And I was mispronouncing when I said Guyana.
Colossal Youth?
Yeah, so thank you, Guyana Public Library. So that's called the Blood Reserve. It's amazing. I'm sure they're strapped for resources, and yet we're getting stuff in from. It's appalling. Lethbridge Public Library, for a city of roughly 100,000 people. So thank you for your generosity, Guyana. So let's see what happened here. Oh yeah, this one was. I don't know exactly what happened with this guy with the phenomenal haircut and stuff like that. He had hair just amazing. I think Tom Cruise is probably jealous. Of course, Tom Cruise is old enough to be described the guy's grandfather, I think. So it's kind of like one of these high school things. It wasn't a Christian thing, really, was it? Or was it? Do you know? You got no idea.
It's pretty bad when we miss it so much while it's on that we don't know.
Yeah. So.
No, I don't think so.
Anyway, did he get? Well, maybe I better not say.
I know what happened.
Yeah.
Okay. I better not say either.
Because some people might really be. I knew what I figured was happening did end up happening, right? Or maybe not. I don't know. At any rate, let's see this one. 3022. I wonder if this is a follow-up to 2001. Space Odyssey.
It's nothing like it.
Yeah, well, it didn't seem that way. Anyway,
But it had Sarah Seidel from CSI in it.
Yeah, and she usually does a pretty good job. She did. I mean, she played a kind of person that was a little over the top in CSI, and I don't think that's necessarily her personality. I think
Yeah,
she has.
I was kind of embarrassed when CSI was on because I kind of identified with Sarah Seidel. Out of the characters, she, maybe a little bit like Grissom. But
yeah, I kind of identified with
know.
Grissom, I suppose.
I know.
The older guy.
And so they ended up together, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's even more,
Okay.
Yeah.
At any rate, but I found it hard to identify really with anyone on that show. But there's some shows that are that way. I think they try to design comedies at least that way, and in some ways, I suppose that was almost like a comedy. But I'm not saying it was bad. It was actually, we watched a fair amount of it. The other two spin-offs, I think there were at least two. The one in New York and
Miami.
Ridiculous.
Miami was so bad.
Because I worked in a police station. Maybe they're different in the United States, but here, some of the wimpiest people in the station ended up.
The guy who was the head in New York actually seemed like he could be a police officer.
I know, but not the kind that would gravitate to that kind of work. And they always had him and Napoleon Solo or whatever his name was down in Miami doing the takedown, and that's why the wimps don't get in.
Oh, Napoleon whatever was doing everything. He was defusing bombs. He was the big hero every time.
It's ridiculous.
And it's like, wow.
They really don't work out on the street. The stuff happens. They do the technical sort of stuff. Now it ain't fun sort of stuff. I can remember I'd every so occasionally be allowed into their sanctum sanctorum, which was where they kept the evidence that they were working on. The evidence itself was kept downstairs in the basement, and it was like a lockup. A civilian took care of it, but even I think when the policeman wanted to access it, they had to go through her, and that's the way it should be. Otherwise,
sure.
That's an attempt to limit corruption and stuff like that. But again, this is more to limit corruption and just like stuff contaminating evidence. They would limit access, so it was only I don't know if the police chief would be able to go in there where they had the evidence that they were working on. So they had lab stuff in there. It wasn't anything like CSI. It was dirty in there. They'd let me in there once every month, and it wasn't. I didn't want to go in there, and I'll explain why. One of the reasons I was sweeping up there. That's usually what they'd have me do. I wouldn't be cleaning off the counters. That I presume was up to them. But there was stuff all over the place. So I'm looking at what I'm sweeping, and all of a sudden it's like there's this ghost that's come up in front of me. I didn't know what it was. It was this shirt, and it was just totally saturated, thank heavens, with dry blood. So I don't know if I hope the person survived that was in the shirt, but it was incredible. It was blood on both sides. And
so they had to take your DNA out of
Well, I didn't
the mix.
quite hit it. Like I was used to being an athlete, and you kind of get used to, reacting to stuff out of the corner of your eye. But I was looking down. But I might have brushed against it. But yeah. Now, one of the things they do is they take everyone's fingerprints that's involved. So fingerprints and stuff like that, they didn't take my DNA or whatever, but maybe they should. At least for janitors, people that are going to be in there, and all the CSI equivalent type of people, they called it.
All right, so I
wouldn't
recommend this. From what I saw,
Yeah, I do like this Omar Epps. I think it's this guy. Right? I've seen him in other things. Most of the acting actually was fairly good, and generally the people in this weren't cast for their looks. And that's kind of unusual for Hollywood. I think they were actually cast for their acting chops.
People or anything.
Not really. I don't want to say that they look like Donald Trump.
Yeah, they were doing a good job acting. That wasn't the problem at all. It just was
the conception and to a certain extent the writing was a problem.
It seemed kind of samey to
Yeah.
all sorts of other space things, and
Yeah.
really, yeah, it just
The
wasn't worth it.
spaceship looked kind of grungy. You know, the stuff they send
Okay.
out to space isn't grungy, but I think eventually, once it becomes like freighters and things like that,
Mm.
the stuff will be like
Yeah,
a
maybe.
ocean-going freighter. I'm not sure how it's going to work out. But
That was kind
Save
of
for
different.
life. Yeah, it was different.
You know, there were some jokes in there, like
Okay.
about the disabled people, how like they looked more like freak show sort of people. So there were jokes about how the half man, half woman that was man on one side, woman on the other,
Okay.
was just totally fake.
Oh.
And the one woman who's okay, so the story is they're actors and they're playing, they're making a movie, and this is kind of like a behind the scenes of it.
Yeah.
And so anyway, the woman who's beautiful, who's falling in love with somebody that, you know, he's not attractive. He's not a hunchback, but he kind of looks like the Disney Hunchback of Notre Dame, sort
Yeah,
of.
something like that.
And I mean, it's just makeup or whatever.
They did a
put
great
on.
job with the makeup,
they
I gotta
did.
say.
But anyway,
Yeah.
she's reading her lines, and she's like, it just doesn't seem to make sense to me that I would say, because she's supposed to be blind, her character's supposed to be blind, and she says, you know, it doesn't make sense that I would say you're beautiful, especially your eyes.
Yeah.
Because she wouldn't be touching his eyeballs, and the beauty about eyes is, she's saying, it's like the color and stuff. It's not everybody's eyeballs would be about the same shape, so why would she say that, you know? And they decide, oh, it's fine, you know? And so really the script is awful. And
Well, it's an indie film.
yeah.
Usually that isn't the kiss of death
No,
for
it's-
me, but sometimes
No, I'm not
it's,
saying the script of this movie is awful.
okay.
I'm saying the script that they're working on.
Oh, I
in
see.
the-
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
But still, it didn't turn out to be a great movie.
Not
There
really.
was one point where the guy who's what was his name? Was it
I don't know.
Rosenthal?
Mhm.
Where he's attracted to the woman that is his leading lady in real life, and he's like, well, actually, this was part of the movie too, I think. Anyway, but he's saying, you know, you have to lower your standards, and he's saying you should be interested in me, kind of thing, right? And she's like, well, I just don't find you attractive, you know, and this and that. And then later on, when he has a dream movie thing in his mind, he's saying, what I want to be is a waiter, you know. I'd like to be well, and this is a part of the script too. What I'd like to be is a waiter, and could I take your order? And then the person would order whatever, and a Diet Coke, and so then later on it shows the dream thing, and the I mean, one would imagine it's a dream thing, or it might be her dream anyway. But anyway, I wasn't paying close attention. But the leading lady has had her face burned with acid. Somebody replaced one of the things that was supposed to be just a fake prop to disfigure her with real acid. So she's been disfigured in real life. So this beautiful woman is now not. And then anyway, what was it? She was in a restaurant and she was all disfigured, and he's her waiter, and he's like, you don't recognize me, do you? And she's like, no, and it's him. And she's like, wow, you know, like he'd had all the work done, so he looked like everyone else, And so then he said to her, well, the doctors, they worked on me, they worked on the twins, they worked on all of us, and we look great, and you should get the work done too, and then we can be together. And it's like, because before, when he didn't have the work done, he thought they should be together, even though she was beautiful. But now that she's not, he thinks that she should have the work done so they can be together. So it's an interesting little thing.
Yeah.
And she seems happy with that. But I mean, that's just something that I noticed about people. Like there have been people, well, guys that I've known that are somehow disfigured, like missing an ear and whatever, twisted sort of face, and then when you got to know them, you realize they were just like everyone else, and they really figured, I mean, maybe it's my generation when I was young, but they figured that, well, people should overlook their deformity, and they should be able to go out with the most beautiful people. The most beautiful people should overlook their deformity and see that they're intelligent or this and that. And it's like, okay, but do you see her as intelligent? Like why would you just assume that a woman, if she's beautiful, is not intelligent? And that's, I think we still haven't moved past that. I think it's really,
on average, I don't think so.
Anyway,
it's not as bad, I think, as it used to be, but who knows?
Yeah. Anyway, so would I recommend the movie? No.
Yeah, none of these
were worth watching.
Exciting. Well, they were worth having on in the background. I've kind of got some images from each one of them. And that isn't necessarily what happens with bad movies. So I wouldn't say they're bad. They're just kind of, each one of them mediocre in its own way. So.
Yeah. And James's sandwiches. He has broccoli sprouts on both of them. And the one is a kale black bean burger. Mm-hmm. And it's a chili flavored kale black bean burger with Mexican pickled carrots.
Oh, so they're pickled?
Yes.
Okay.
So
they look fascinating.
Yes.
Very cute.
So, and I should have pickled them in long strips too, but I only pickled the Mexican ones in circles.
Well, they're not going to stay on the burger terribly well. I'm going to be eating these burgers inside because it's going to be embarrassing.
Yes, because I made these buns, and they're mostly...
There's a little beet in them, I presume, right?
Huh?
Beet. There's
yes.
a little bit of beet.
I used beet juice for the liquid.
Yeah.
And then I put a lot of ground walnut and ground flax, and what else? A little bit of onion powder and ground mushroom, and what else? A little bit of organic rye flour. And I didn't put enough of that I thought...
Rye flour?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so when I was looking at it, I'm like, that's not going to rise. Even though I put the beet juice, so I was thinking that the beet juice would make the yeast live and make the bread rise, but it didn't look like it was going to rise, and so I was like, well, I'm going to make buns and just squish them down flat so they'll be like little round flatbreads to then put the burger on. And then,
they
unfortunately,
don't look like fat flatbread. What do they look
they
like?
rose.
They look like ginger
cookies.
Snaps.
Yes.
Yeah, ginger snaps. And I'm afraid they're going to be almost as hard.
Yeah.
So I'm afraid if I try to eat them like burgers, the stuff will just be flying.
So
I look
it's going
like
to have to be some sort of an open face
beaver
experiment.
going at a tree.
But I'll
like
try
that.
this experiment another time. And, well, James will let you know if the buns taste good and everything.
If I'm missing a few teeth, it's maybe a little bit too hard. It's not that hard.
Oh, there's also teff in there.
But I think it's going to be tasty. I'm just going to eat the filling of the burger with a knife and fork. And or maybe I'll just eat it with a bagel, and then I'll have the well, what could have or should have been the buns.
Yeah.
Just be eating like a cookie on
And
the
well, I
side.
baked them in the oven, so they're healthier that way. And the other one is chickpea and carrot pulp falafel.
Kind of like
that I
what
made
I
into
had
a patty.
yesterday.
Yep,
I think
exactly.
it's going to be very tasty.
So
Those, what
since
I had
James really
yesterday is very
liked that
tasty.
yesterday, I thought, okay, well, I'll
Yeah.
make one burger that.
Yeah.
And
so the
then-
only thing that's missing is
Ketchup?
well, yeah,
Homemade
what is
ketchup.
it? Yeah, it looks like mustard, but it's a lot
Yeah.
sweeter than mustard. I like mustard. But, I usually like it with relish, so it ends up being kind of like a ketchup or something like that, right? So
Yep. Okay. And well, that's that.
for the time being, anyway,
You did-
maybe later on today we'll have another show. Or,
If you want, or
Yeah.
did you want to talk about the coronavirus a little bit? or
oh,
not at all?
yeah, maybe we should talk about. What's your theory about China's role in it all?
Well, I don't know if it started, if they started, like if they released the virus deliberately, or if it accidentally got released out of their,
Wuhan facility.
yeah, or if it was like, it could very well be if you watch the immunology, whatever, what was that great course? What was it called?
I can't remember.
Can't remember. Something like that. Anyway, if you watch the great course that focuses on this sort of topic, then I can't remember what it was called. The instructor of the course was talking about how the viruses that we're going to have to deal with are going to come from Asia and probably China, right? So it was already predicted, but you can look at that and go, well, if an American university prof is suggesting that that's going to happen, you can't really know that it's why they think that's going to happen. Like he said that it was because of the animal, how they had high intensity meat production and eggs and stuff like that.
See, I think it's a meat production. You got a huge
and
slew
the
of,
wild meat too,
Yeah.
mixed in with the whole
Yeah.
thing.
This I wasn't applying it to reality. Like, you got roughly the same number of people, and it's actually more crowded in India because it's got a much smaller space than China. Although where China has got their population, it'd probably be as crowded as India. But you don't hear about these things coming from India. Why is it? They don't eat meat, at least the sensible ones there.
Well, there's a
You know
lot of
what I'm saying?
Muslims there that eat meat.
There are, but not in India. Okay, there's like, compare and contrast. There's a 10th number of Muslims in India than there are people in China. That's a huge difference.
Okay,
Yeah.
but
There are as many Muslims in India apparently as there are in Pakistan, and Pakistan is one of the maybe the second most populous Muslim
But the
country in
point that
world.
I'm trying to make is that an American professor making an educated guess about the viruses, and that's where it seems to be coming from, whatever, it might not be that the Chinese are actually releasing these viruses. It could very well be that the Americans are releasing them in China near their facility
I
to
suspect
make
they've
it
got
look like
several
the Chinese. You don't know.
you'd have to call it really bioterrorist facility. So apparently they've got something place for investigating biological warfare. Why they would have it in the center of a city, hopefully it's not the center, of 11 million people, I just don't know. It seems very stupid, but they're not the only ones. Toronto has a big nuclear facility. Basically, it's not quite in the middle, but it's part of the urban sprawl of, so it's in Pickering. It's off to the east.
So, I mean, like I was talking to a woman the other day, and she thinks that the virus originated in China and was released deliberately. And, you know, it's probably, whatever. It might be, might not be, but it's neither here nor there, is what I'm saying. The fact of the matter is the rest of the world should be prepared for this. And they're not.
They should have been prepared even before it started. SARS was, 16, 17 years ago. They should have been prepared, and they've been totally unprepared. They're going to say, we learned so much from that. They didn't learn anything. It's what a gambler learns, or it's like what someone learns when they're screaming down the highway at twice the limit and doesn't get in an accident.
So, if you know that it's going to happen, like this great course that I watched was not brand new. It was back a few years. And you're still producing the livestock in high-intensity situations in your own country. Well, that's not smart. And the society is set up so that the people seem to think that it would be a major infringement on their freedom, so that they would have to stay grounded in their own country, or, you know.
Well, there they don't have that.
Well, there's
concept,
something like that.
Basically,
yeah, I know. Trump closed the
and many
borders.
of the places, and many of the places of the world have this idea. Yeah, I'm free to move around. I was reading a philosopher talking about no one would think that anyone would have the right to go wandering around. This is a guy called Clifford. And it's over 100 years ago. White to rock around and expose his family and friends and his country to a plague. And I'm going, dude, people have got that 150 years after you.
And so we're watching this philosophy course, and I think it was Heidegger, but I can't remember anyway. Somebody was talking about how humans are different from all the other animals because they understand that they're going to die. And I always find comments like that amusing, because how could they know? Do they remember being a bird or a mouse or something? Like, how could they possibly know that humans are the only creatures that realize they're going to die? It doesn't make sense. It's laughable, honestly.
Well, philosophers always seem so sure about things, and I'm using a philosophical kind of formulation when I say always, because it's amusing. I swear I'm going to do it. I started to do it with Nietzsche.
Yeah. So
and another philosopher. I'm reading.
I said to James, well, dogs, when they know they're going to die, they go off on their own, and if you've had a dog do this, like. I remember when I was a little kid, I figured it out, because the dogs, they'd go off and lay way at the other end of the, like, far away from the house, as far away, like almost near the road, like where the dugout was. They'd go lay out there when they were going to die.
So Tegan was about as far away in her yard as she could get from the house. Where
because
the people
dogs care about their family. The pack's very important to the dog, right? So they go away so that the pack doesn't get sick.
Yeah.
They quarantine themselves so the pack doesn't get sick. So the whole pack doesn't die if they die.
This is for who? And it's for China. It's for all the leaders of the world. I want you, most of you guys that think you're way smarter than dogs, I want you to prove it. I want you to prove it. Now, whether or not dogs have a consciousness of what they're doing, I don't think they necessarily know they're going to die. But what they do is when they're sick, they get away. They quarantine themselves.
Okay. And
Humans don't seem to have that